Today, let's talk about uncertainty and the will of God. Yeah. See, problems surface when we face situations that are not familiar to us. Brings a little uncertainty, and most of the time, it will somewhere in that process we'll say, I must be out of the will of God, or I don't know what the will of God is, or this really is troubling to me. So I want to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about uncertainty and the will of God. Part of the problem we do is when we get to unfamiliar places is we draw back and we decide that because it's not familiar, it must not be the will of God. Let me say this very clearly, very plainly. Discomfort is not always a sign you are out of the will of God or that you're walking away from the plan of God for your life or the things that you've dreamed of having. It's just not the case. Discomfort is not the umpire of whether you are in the will of God or not. The voice of God is the umpire. The voice of the Holy Spirit is the umpire as to whether or not you're in the will of God. Listen to his voice. Jesus said, My sheep know my voice. If we learn the voice of God, then circumstances become less relevant to us when it comes to the will of God or not the will of God. We're not walking away from what God has asked us to do when we get uncomfortable or get into unfamiliar areas. Because there was a time when some of the spies said, We've not been this way before. God was taking them on a journey that they had not been around. They had not done that before. It was unfamiliar to them. And when you evaluate great men and women of God, I think you have to take a long look, but most of them seem to be uncomfortable immediately before God used them for, I would say, a great purpose. You can look at Abraham, you can look at Joseph, you can look at David. In the New Testament, you can look at the disciples, Paul as well. Look at him. Look at the life of Jesus. Look at all of those. And there was discomfort or uncertainty generally before their greatest work. So if you're in a situation where you are facing the unfamiliar, I'm going to ask you to relax, take a deep breath, exhale, and understand I'm not governed by circumstances. I'm governed by the voice of God on the inside of me. So if the voice of God has said to me to move in this direction, then I'm going to move in this direction until the voice of God speaks to me again. I refuse to let circumstances dictate the will of God in my life. Keep that in mind. You'll live a much better life and you'll be more confident in your journey, understanding that I've heard God on this. Has his hand on my life, even in unfamiliar places. God bless you. Come back to the channel, take a look around, and if you've not already, subscribe to your friends about it. Love a great journey here. I want you to be part of it. God bless you. We will again soon.